The City of Charleston's District 5 has a new council member representing them on City Council, and that's Karl Brady. I sit down exclusively with Karl for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Karl Brady, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. This time as a Charleston City Councilman.
That's correct.
What is it like to be you these days?
It's like drinking from a fire hose lately, but it's been good. You know, we've been working on a lot of the stormwater drainage updates and some really weighty issues that, it's been good to start tackling those.
And I know when I went back to your old website, your campaign website, you said this: better leadership. You deserve to know what's going on in District 5. What is going on right now from your perspective as a councilman?
So in District 5, which is Outer West Ashley and Johns Island, we've been dealing with some flooding issues in the past. So before we passed the stormwater updates, we did hold a public meeting at St. John's High School because I wanted the citizens on Johns Island to get a chance to weigh in. So we did that before passage. So we got some feedback on that, which was good. And, quality of life is always something people care very deeply about. So been meeting with local citizens when they have problems, whether it's a livability issue or a law enforcement issue, things of that nature. So really trying to be responsive to the needs in the citizens of District 5.
District 5. And you also said this too: better infrastructure. You deserve to know where your tax dollars are going and how those tax dollars are being spent to make improvements to our area. So where are the tax dollars right now?
So your stormwater and drainage funds are funding a lot of improvements in the city. There's the Wapu Drainage Basin project, which is going on out closer to. I have a section between Stinson and Wapu, so it's something I'm monitoring very closely, as well as we're working with our friends at the county on some road projects and whatnot. So I think the main road corridor project, there's a public meeting on March 31st.
Right.
That citizens can weigh in on the preferred alternatives for that. I've sat in traffic on Main Road quite a lot lately, going back and forth for meetings. And so I know that's a very needed improvement that people want. As well as, we're tackling some of the kind of what people may consider mundane issues on where do we need sidewalks.
Oh, yeah.
I got a meeting coming up with Charleston Moves,
Oh, yes.
State Senator Sin, and some of our friends at the county to look at adding a sidewalk where the new C.E. Williams is going in off Sanders Road, and how do we connect the sidewalk from there to the entrance at Carolina Bay, where we're going to have a lot of kids walking and maybe cycling and that type of thing. So, it's really running the gamut, but I think, people are able to see their tax dollars at work, which has been really good.
Really good. You talked earlier about the weighty issues. I got to go back to obviously Tuesday when Charleston City Council approved the new requirements for new home construction in flood-prone areas, calling it a freeboard requirement.
The freeboard requirement, yep.
Yeah, which is Keith Waring's whole initiative. And obviously, it ups that requirement from 1 foot above FEMA standards to 2 feet above FEMA standards. What are the numbers right now when it comes to new home construction in your district?
So our district's been expanding very rapidly. The new freeboard requirement, there will be a couple of months for developers to begin implementing that, and it would start with some of the newer permitting that would be going on. Same thing as the stormwater standards will begin in July.
Right.
So, for example, on the stormwater ones, any building or any type of development that has not had a stormwater permit issued by July 1st will fall under the new standards, and the freeboard requirement will be very similar. And, I had hoped that we would, that the freeboard requirement would also apply to significant modifications to a structure, whether it was through flood damage or an owner coming in and making significant modifications to it. But that was not the will of council. And so we at least started the ball rolling in the right direction on new construction.
Why wasn't there a rule banning fill and bill in your mind?
So I'm with Councilmember Seekings on that. We would have liked to see a more kind of surgical approach to it, because this would have been a prime opportunity. But I don't think that we would have been able to get 7 votes necessarily on that in incorporating it into the free board requirements.
Free board requirements. And I know Mayor John Teckelberg said that the new stormwater manual approved during the last city council meeting would address the problem from happening because it requires certain grades and soils used.
Mm-hmm.
What certain grades and soils are being used now?
So a lot of the fill that is brought in currently is a lot of clay. It's not very permeable. My house was built up on fill, and my dog dug a hole in the backyard, and the water does not drain virtually at all. I mean, it takes several days for it to actually move through the hole that he decided to dig in the yard. And so the new stormwater requirements, those soils that would be brought in have to be more permeable. And then there's also restrictions on if you are going to use fill as part of meeting the stormwater requirements. There's more buffers and setbacks and things that have to happen. So while the stormwater manual doesn't ban it and there's no ordinance banning it, the new stormwater requirements make it significantly harder to use it as a means to achieve the stormwater regulations.
That new stormwater manual, everyone's probably sitting there thinking, where's the stormwater procedure?
What do you mean in terms of procedure?
Usually with the stormwater manual, you'll have, and I know the mayor's talked about the procedure before, but what do you know about the procedure now?
So I know, especially on certain developments and whatnot, they have to meet with our stormwater team because the new manual actually allows for submerged systems, which we previously did not allow in the city,
Right.
And so that's a new kind of thing to tackle for us. But I think now that it gives, you can use fill, but it's more restrictive, and you can also use submerged systems. So there's more diversity in terms of what people can do. And it's a different way of thinking about it than we have in the past, because now, like a redeveloped site and some of the new commercial construction are going to be required to detain their water on the property. So it's basically you can't make it worse. So you actually have to hold it and then release that water slowly back into the watershed over 72 hours, which is not how it's been in the past, which has been, caused some of the problems that we've had. But I think we took a major step towards correcting that.
Let me stay with construction because construction hours, according to Channel 5, will soon be limited to certain days and weeks if Charleston County Council, or City Council that is, approves the final reading of the new noise ordinance Tuesday night. So you all had that final ordinance. What exactly happened?
So we did pass it as it was presented. And so that'll go into effect in 90 days to give the developers time to figure out how they want to schedule and that type of thing. So there can't be any construction on city holidays that are prescribed in the ordinance, as well as if someone wants to pour concrete, obviously you can't do that like during the middle of the day. And so if they are going to be pouring after the hours, especially for concrete, they do have to give the homeowners 48 hours notice that's occurring. And it was predominantly addressed to downtown, but I think especially in areas that are seeing new neighborhoods and stuff go up, I mean, it's going to apply there. So it's not just limited to downtown. It is a citywide ordinance. So I know, like when I moved into my house, it was a new construction. If you were home during the day or on the weekend, I mean, you could hear all the construction going on. So it's good that we're going to limit it, not starting too early in the morning and not going too late at night as a livability issue.
Let me turn over to something else because obviously Harry Griffin brought this up in the city council meeting on Tuesday, and that is trying to ban people from really texting and driving and whatever else they're doing. How do you see it as a councilman right now?
So I actually was working with Harry. We were bouncing ideas off each other on that. Several of my constituents, as well as just other residents of the city, have approached me about, we've all experienced the light goes green, the car in front of you doesn't move for 3 or 4 seconds, the person you see them look up and then they go. And that's becoming a real issue around the city as if you think about if that happens every cycle through the light, the minutes and the hours that we're losing in terms of vehicle throughput as a result of people being on their phones while they're in the car, as well as we know distracted driving is one of the prevailing causes of accidents in South Carolina in general. So I'm very much in favor of making it hands-free. I know there are some limitations to that, but other states have enacted it, and we thought that if the state legislature won't get moving on it, maybe we could act as a city, but the current no texting bill takes that out of our hands. And so Councilmember Griffin had to adjust the approach. So now we're looking at adopting a resolution to send our representatives in Columbia to urge them to get that bill out of committee.
What would you add to that resolution right now if you could?
I would try, I'm with Councilmember Griffin on this one. I would try and make the fines so steep that it would discourage people, similar to how if you go to Isle of Palms or Sullivan's or Folly, it's $1,000 or $1,040 fine to possess alcohol on the beach. And so I think it probably needs to be somewhere in that variety, because you really got to hit people in the pocketbook. Otherwise, people are just going to violate it and go pay the $100 or $200 or whatever it is, rather than seriously changing their behavior.
I didn't ask you any tough questions today because I want to go easy on you since you just came in.
Yeah.
But what do you know now about City Council that you didn't know before?
I think a lot of the work is done in committees, and we knew about it, but we're really, with this current council, focusing on trying to really work on the bills in committee so that when they get to the floor on City Council for first, second, and third reading, the majority of the work has been done, and we're not having to amend things right there on the floor. So the committee work has been really good. I serve on Traffic and Transportation, Committee on Human Resources, and Special Facilities, and they all have a ton of stuff going on right now, as well as I serve on the West Ashley Revitalization Commission, as well as the Charleston Area Transportation Study Committee through the COG. So transportation's one of my main priorities, clearly, because I know, especially with a growing area, and we just got a new Harris Teeter and a new shopping center in on Beast Ferry Road, new schools going in. Transportation is going to continue not only to be an issue at some of the problem points, but we need to figure out how we're going to proactively address helping our friends at the state and the county understand priority intersections that we feel need to be improved, as well as the things that are within our purview to fix.
How many more sections need to be improved in your district right now?
So Main Road and that corridor project is currently ongoing. The Northern Pitchfork has been funded. It's going out to bid. That would connect Maybank to River Road away from that problematic intersection. There are going to be improvements at the Maybank and River intersection. I think that'll help improve flow. But one of the things that we're slowly phasing in smart lights throughout the city in West Ashley at some of the major intersections, and I think that'll go a long way. And then the 526, the Mark Clark extension, has been funded by the county, and so I think that there's that particular project is going to impact how we address a lot of the other transportation issues going forward, because hopefully that will provide some relief on and off Johns Island and take some of the pressure off of especially Main Road.
Main Road. Let me go back to Main Road. You talked about obviously the bid being put in. Where is that RFP in your mind?
So the current process that segment A is in, which is the Main and 17 intersection, as well as the River and Main Road intersection. That's segment A of that project. We're in the second phase of public comment. Once that is done, they'll start doing some initial design work. And once the design work's completed, then the construction contracts will go out for bid.
And how much will all this cost?
It's in the several hundred millions of dollars. Because especially the Main Road, the preferred alternative that will be unveiled at the public meeting, will have several bridges and whatnot that will need to be constructed. And obviously, as we know from having to fix bridges or having the county and state fix bridges, that's an expensive undertaking.
How much confidence do you have in the South Carolina Department of Transportation right now?
So we work with our friends at the DOT, and they are not in an easy position where they have criteria that's laid out by state law that they have to enforce, and unfortunately, things that we think should be an easy priority, and I think that the public would think are an easy priority, aren't necessarily. So, as an example, the city got in some hot water with the Riverland Terrace neighborhood over our plan to ban left turns at the Maybank and Riverland Drive intersection. we were going to route traffic down Gulfview for those needing to make a left, similar to how you do on the crosstown.
Right.
The state would not allow a protected left turn arrow at that intersection because it only met one of the 6 requirements for that intersection. So we were trying to get creative, but we probably could have slowed that down a little bit and gotten more public input from those residents and heard their concerns, because they definitely came out in force against that proposal, because Gulfview Drive is a residential road. And so, we were trying to do what was best for the majority of the citizens, because at any given time from 4:30 to 6, trying to go onto Johns Island, 1,200 people are trying to go straight, and only 33 are trying to make a left. But if you've ever driven that intersection, you know that those 33 people will back up traffic for miles. And so we were trying to come up with a cheap fix that was within our purview to do, but we had to go back to the drawing board. So we're working with the DOT, we're working with Senator Sin to come up with some alternatives for that intersection, because it is problematic.
Now, I know it's problematic, but how much would that cost the city?
So hanging the no turn signs wouldn't have cost us very much.
Okay.
But to redo that intersection, that is going to take some county and state funding to do that. And that's what we were trying to avoid, because there already is the priority list of projects. So we were trying to avoid that, but unfortunately, that's how we're going to have to go forward.
What is the estimated cost?
We are not at that point yet, so we're still studying with the DOT and with Senator Sin what those alternatives could look like for that intersection, because there's several varying types of designs, and it would have to go through the normal public comment period and things of that nature.
Now, if I were to interview you for Quintin's close-up, and I know I will in the next 6 months, what would you tell me the issues you'll be focusing on next?
Great question. So I know with the Committee on Human Resources, we are looking at providing paid family and parental leave for city employees for 12 weeks in a year. And so we're going to be working on that, what the cost implications are, what's an essential employee. Because, if you had, as an example, a female police officer that needed to go out on maternity leave, we would need to figure out a way to temporarily fill that type of position, because it is for public safety. And those are all things that we're going to be working on in the Committee on Human Resources for that. As well as on special facilities, we are working with the aquarium on their designs for the Maritime Center. So that's going to be a very exciting project going forward, because that is a city facility. And so they would become a lessee along with the International African American Museum. So I think there'll be a lot of space and work going into that. And then in traffic and transportation, we're always looking for ways that are within our purview to implement our complete streets plan. So I mentioned looking at the sidewalk from C.E. Williams over to Carolina Bay, doing more crosswalk improvements, things of that nature, to really help the city be more mobile in ways that don't just include cars.
Councilman Karl Brady, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Up.
Thanks again, Quintin. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.